Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Healthy Entrepreneur Show. My name is Maxine Choy, and I am a health and nutrition coach. I work with women to help them to attain achievable, sustainable goals regarding their health and their fitness. And this show is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs who may have any struggles in their journey, on their journey to become an entrepreneur, whether that be struggling with their health, their finances, their relationships, and just reaching their goals. So we bring on people here who are entrepreneurs or not, who can share some of the tips that they can help us to inspire each other. So um, when I met Aisha of Choosing Hue, I thought the first thing I thought was, this girl, she makes me want to cook. So I saw your page and I was like, okay, you know what? I can cook. I can cook. I can be in the kitchen. I was so inspired by the things that you were just like, pouring out there. And I was like, what is this girl? What is she all about? What's happening? So I went and I looked you up and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I'm going to read something from what you wrote from your website. And I think it gave me some food for thought, if you want to use those words, right? So you says, what we eat determines how we move, how we smell, what we look like, and how we feel. And that cooking for you is more than food, it's intention, focus, and spirit. And I thought, wow, I was just gripping all those words and saying, she's right. Because when you eat food and you feel sluggish or whatever the case may be, like it's what you eat is how you feel. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so welcome to the show, and let's
Yeah.
just start talking.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey as to creating Hue Foods and what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
So my journey really began, the company began about 4 or 5 years ago. But truly my journey to food began I'm going to say like 12 years ago. I really wanted to transition the way I was eating. I really recognize. So I have okay, let me go all the way back. I have a degree in acting. So my background is in performing arts, and it has been my entire life. And I remember in the midst of doing my BA, I remember making this connection between my quality of my performance and how it really depends on what I eat. I was like, oh, okay, so if I eat this food, I'm going to feel a particular way. And I remember clocking that all those years ago, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So what does it mean to alter the way I eat? How will I then perform? And so that kind of began this whole long journey into really discovering that I wanted to step into veganism. It didn't start that way. I became a vegetarian and I went back eating meat, and then I went back to vegetarianism, and then I went to pescatarianism. Like I was all over the map, and that totally is a part of the journey, right? It's not going to look one particular way. But upon choosing to make the decision to go vegan was when I was like, okay, this is so right for me. And on that journey, I was like, well, I got to kind of figure out how to do this because I didn't have any examples.
Right,
I didn't have anybody in my life who was a vegan.
right.
And so on that journey, I started posting things and sharing my stuff on my personal Instagram. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, you should start a company. I was like, start a company? Like, I'm just like,
What are you talking about?
what are you talking about? This is just me kind of, sharing. And it was from like my community that was like, no, I think you should do this.
Right.
Um, and so that's where the business came up. And the first 3 years of my business, I was really focused on meal prepping and creating community and connections with people that centered food. And I loved it. It was a lot of work.
Mhm.
It was a solo job, really. I kind of was the face of my company. I met with clients, I prepared the meals, I dropped off the meals, I did all the grocery shopping, like I did all aspects of the business. And I had the opportunity of working with amazing people.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that you did a vegan meal for the Wu-Tang Clan.
I did,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
I know, it's so cool.
Mhm.
And so like that was like definitely one of the highlights of the company. But I realized that as much as I enjoy cooking for people, what I really enjoy is really connecting with people and talking about it.
Right, right.
Really like kind of centering in on what food and what it really means to us as individuals, how it connects us to
Absolutely.
ancestry, how it connects us to landscapes, how it connects us to truly who we are. And so
Absolutely.
that passion override my desire to cook for people. And now I still do like small things here and there.
Right.
But really I want to be like an advocate and really talk about it and kind of share the journey that I'm now currently on, where I just completed my master's, and my master's really is looking at the connection between cooking and performance. And so this brings
Interesting.
me right back to the beginning when I was in acting school and being like, oh, like what is this thing?
Connection.
Yeah.
Right. So you're always so you like to dig deep and focus on the connection and how you actually perform.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's kind of like the same thing when you are trying to figure out what foods affect you,
Yeah.
whether it makes you bloated or upset, whatever. So then you take the time to weed out and then bring it back in to see what works for you. And I think I read something on your page. You said that when you were maybe 10 years ago you had pain on the side of your face,
Mm-hmm.
and you found out that you had an ear infection, and the doctor said get off dairy altogether. And I think that's what started the journey of you, watching what you eat and seeing how when you remove certain things and bring it back into your body, how it affects you. It's kind of the same thing I'm going through. And I
Yeah.
think earlier when we were speaking, I told you how I am now a vegan, but I have to like say to myself, no, you're not a vegan yet, Maxine. You are a plant-based. You've turned to plant-based because there's certain things that I'm still trying to figure out when I eat it. Like, does it have egg in there? Does it have this and that? And then of course it's just taking my
Yeah.
time to see to know what to eat and what not to eat. But I love that you you correlate it with your performance and the food. Amazing. I want to ask you, okay, so I told you you make me want to cook.
Good. Yes.
I mean, I love cooking, but the fancy stuff, I mean, people will tell me I make fancy food, but I think, it's not as exciting as yours. But how do you find the time to cook?
Oh man, listen, I tell people this all the time. It is really about what you want, right? Now, of course, for me, it's a little different. Like this is my life, right? So there's a level of elevation that I need to cook as much as possible in order to really understand what's going on with the food and how it's affecting me, so I can really write about it, right? So I mean, I'm in the kitchen a lot, um, but I love it. And then there's times when I don't like it and I still love it. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
like I don't really want to cook a meal tonight. And really listening to what that is and how that doesn't mean uh, that's not something negative, you know, it's just kind of maybe just where I'm at. But
Yeah,
um, I cook as often as I possibly can, and sometimes it's really small things, sometimes it's really elaborate things. But it's such an interesting process, right? Like when I go into the kitchen, I have a huge ritual that I do, and many people. I mean, I don't often share it that much on my Instagram because it is a process, right? But for me, when I walk into the kitchen, I feel like I'm just like connecting with all of my ancestors. They're just like, Aisha,
mm.
hey, 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 and
Oh
they're
wow.
feeding me knowledge and information um, to help me do what I do. A lot of times when I prepare something, it's probably my first time. I probably have never made it before, and I don't necessarily know where the passion or the thought process came to create certain things.
Right.
Um, but I allow myself the room to explore that.
Absolutely.
the kitchen is my playground, you know, and if I could offer anything to people that support me on Instagram, is bringing back the excitement of what food can do, right? We, as you know, people of color, we have such a diverse, integral connection to food in a way that I think many of us don't even realize. You know,
Absolutely.
food is who we are, right? Gathering is who we are. You know, our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents, our aunties, uncles, they always wanted to feed us, right? And
Yep.
that was an expression of love, right?
Yes.
You may not have heard the word "I love you," but you definitely heard that.
Oh, you heard it from the food that was put on the table in front of you. Like
Exactly.
the old saying was, when mama makes your food, mama makes it with a lot of love.
A lot of love,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
there's something about that connection that I'm constantly wanting to interact with, right?
Right.
If you can feel my love, then like that's everything to me, you know?
You know, I love what you're saying, because as an entrepreneur, right? We are the CEO, the president, and all that stuff.
Everything.
And right. And we sometimes neglect that part of our health, preparing a proper meal, planning it. And I'm thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, what a great way to put a spin on cooking, or like cooking our foods, by thinking about it as an act of love. Obviously, we all do that, but just the connection with our ancestors. I
Yes.
never really thought about that. And I understand what you mean when you say you get into the kitchen and it become you have this ritual. There's a
Yeah,
connection. Some people can do this by listening to classical music and drinking wine, right?
absolutely.
Exactly, and or maybe watching TV. But you have this connection with your ancestors, and I think that probably is why you create such beautiful dishes, because
Mhm.
they give you the inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I owe it all to those before me, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
granted, I'm a very intelligent woman, but like
I know.
I owe a lot to what lives in my DNA, what lives in my body, and you know, there's no accident that I arrived here um, as a chef. You know, it's not by accident, and so I take that with a huge responsibility. You know,
Right,
I use my hands to create,
right,
and I know that is what I'm supposed to be doing. Uh,
right.
so I don't take that lightly. I don't be like, oh, okay, whatever. Like,
No,
I think there's something. I think it's something to say that many of us we all have so many gifts to share, and many of us maybe are kind of afraid or a little nervous to share them, but like it's don't be afraid to share it. It's yours, and and you're meant to share it with the world, and so I really think of it from that perspective, like this is my gift from God, and so
absolutely.
um I make sure that I give myself the space to do that every single day, as much as I possibly can.
Right. I mean, that's wonderful. Um, you said something else. You said, can cooking, well, you asked this question you said, can cooking become a tool, a way of reconnecting, a practice of self-care, a political stance? Can you tell me
Yeah.
why you asked that question?
Well, I mean, I won't go too much into this, the politics of food. Like that's a whole other discussion,
Hmm.
right? I mean, who has access, who doesn't have access, where grocery stores are located, um, what we as Canadians, as Toronto, let's make it really specific, as Toronto, as
Right.
GTAers,
Yes.
as
Yes.
Torontonians, what we have ability to have, what we have access to, like the privilege, right?
Hmm.
Um, so there's so much policy and politics that are wrapped around food, and to me, it boggles my mind because no one should be hungry in the world, like
Yeah.
absolutely no one. Um, and it's really, I think, for many of us, it's kind of reteaching ourselves how to work with the land, how to grow our own food, how to just take a little bit more autonomy and in how we feed ourselves, right? Like it's not, there's something very powerful and important about learning how to grow a tomato, right?
Mm,
There's like a care and a responsibility about that often we don't get a chance to do because we just get to go to the grocery store and pick it up,
right.
right? Um, Cooking as a tool, it's a tool to really be able to learn about other people, right? Like I think about like a specific meal. There's a meal, shakshuka. It's a Middle Eastern dish, and it's made with like traditionally made with like tomatoes and cumin, paprika, and then you crack 3 eggs on top, and you broil it, and it's just a beautiful, delicious dish. For me, I think I'm like, wow, like what is it about this dish that really connects to that particular culture? This is a gateway for me to be like, wow, okay, let's do a little bit of research. Like, what is it
I
about
see.
the dish, Now, of course, I mean, not everybody's interested in that, but it's available, right?
Right.
We have the option to do that, to take it a little step further. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so I think food is an opportunity to build communities, to build culture, to preserve culture. I can't get over how incredibly lucky we are to be Canadian. I can't
Absolutely.
I can't get over how lucky we are to have the access, all the food that we have access to here,
Right.
how many different cultures we have access to here, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Absolutely.
you can get any food from pretty much anywhere in the world in Toronto.
Hmm.
That
Yes,
is
you can.
that is unique,
It is.
I've traveled a lot, and that is not something that you find very often. And so really not taking that for granted, that
Right.
we have a diverse palette here. And I think
Yeah.
that's really, really, really cool.
Oh, I know it is. We are very lucky. We're very fortunate. And I think that exploring many different foods really is a good way to learn about the ancestral part of it, right? I've explored not just the food but the culture as well, right? And it really makes a huge difference. It's like you develop this respect for food.
Yes.
I get it. Trust me, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about meal prepping. Do you? And I know so you were a chef. You provide food for people when they, I guess, if they ask for a meal, you prepare the meal and deliver it or what have you.
Yeah.
Do you meal prep now, or you just cook on a whim?
No, I don't meal prep anymore.
Mhm.
I decided to kind of swing my focus away from meal prepping, just because I mean, I will do what I would like to continue to do is like be able to hold dinners, right? Where I have an opportunity to have a really intimate environment where I can prepare a meal for my guests,
Right.
but we get a chance to talk about it, right? We get a
Yeah.
chance to go through an entire story, an entire experience, and I missed that element when I was cooking as or preparing meals for clients before.
Right.
I have to still remember, as much as I am a chef, I am a performer. And so being able to still, enter into that world is very much who I am. And so I decided to step away from meal prepping, and just really focus more on creating experiences for people.
Right.
But we're in a pandemic, so I can't necessarily do that in the ways that I would like to in person. But this is why I have my Instagram account, and I try to take my followers along with me as I prepare meals and share different things that I'm doing throughout the day. So that's kind of a way that I'm
You keep
creating.
it connected. You keep it
Yeah,
connected and letting everybody see your craft and whatnot. I mean,
exactly.
I certainly love to see it, and you're very creative with your Instagram. I think
Thank
it's great. So I'm going to just name it. You're a vegan chef, performing artist, scholar,
you. Mhm.
yoga instructor, and wellness coach.
Yeah,
And I love that. That reminds me of what Steve Harvey said. Um, if you can do everything, do it, and
everything.
just do it as long as you're able to do it. Because one of them it will either be your passion or your paycheck or something like that, right?
Oh, I love that. Yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Because I mean, okay, so your you performing arts might be your ticket that would is that may be what you may end up doing and forgetting about being a chef, but you
Yep.
continue on being inspired by your cooking and connecting it with your performing arts. Yoga instructor, wellness coach, any one of those can be combined with what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
I love that you've got a nice balance here.
Yeah. I've worked at it, man. I've worked at it. And it's kind of like all those things feed into each other, you know.
Absolutely.
I've kind of I've kind of sat in each of those titles for a little bit of time, you know, like
Yes.
I was an actor I was committed to that for many years. I did that, and then I was like, okay, this is really cool, but moving on to the next, I
Yes.
really focus on cooking meals, and I did that. Okay, great. Now I'm kind of in like the scholar, you know, like really just focusing on writing about this content and writing about this as a way to share my knowledge, you know, and that's kind of where I really want to be right now.
Absolutely.
And so wrapped up in all of that is, you know, being a coach and motivating people, which I've been doing for years.
Right.
Now I have a title, you know. Now you can
No.
say I'm a wellness coach, but like I've been doing this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for you, you probably came to a discovery that with everything that you're doing, um, you found that people were coming to you with something else. Like even for me, right? So I started off being a wellness coach, then went into being a health and nutrition coach.
Mm.
Got my certification because I realized I needed to be more qualified. I wanted to learn more about the planet, the earth, where our foods are coming from, the agriculture, all those things. And then I realized that people wanted more. So then becoming a yoga instructor as well myself, I think we're both aligned in a certain way because
Yeah.
I realized that people were like, okay, I want more. So that's going to happen to you where you're going to find people are going to want more and more and more because it's all a nice package. And I'm just really happy for you that you are in this wellness field. And I believe if anybody's on here watching, they should follow you for some inspiration.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to touch on something else that you said. Um, you said Hue Foods is a vegan food and lifestyle brand designed to offer tips and tools on how to on how to be more aware, on how to be a more aware consumer.
Aware and sustainable consumer.
Right.
Hmm.
Tell us how have you helped people with that?
Yeah. So a lot of when I started when I was meal prepping, it how I operated that part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge advocate for. I was like, everything. We're not using any plastic. Like
Sounds like me.
we're not. That's not an option. And so I created a system that clients would buy into would buy containers, glass containers that I would use. That then when they decided not to hire me anymore, they would have these containers that you could use and reuse and reuse and reuse.
Right.
And so I was I still am a huge advocate for being as mindful as possible of how we are contributing to waste.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not perfect, and I'm not here to be like I am completely waste free. Absolutely not. But I am aware that what I do is I am responsible for this world. We are all
Absolutely.
responsible for this world. And so I think doing my little part of just choosing not to have any plastic, and like really it was challenging because I was like, okay, well, what about those like little small sauces that you want to provide?
Exactly.
Like, oh my gosh, I gotta find glass containers for this. But I did it, and it was a lot of work, but I did it because I was like, no, I want people to know that this is important. You know, that this isn't just me buying into a fad or trying to say I'm going green. No, I'm actually going green. Like that is the lifestyle, that is the practice, right? And so providing this information and this knowledge for my clientele. It was a huge part of my meal prepping business, like massive part.
Okay.
But now I think, as you know, I still do talk about it, but now for me, I'm really wanting to focus on, uh, as individuals, how are we taking care of ourselves, right? Like
Right.
food is an important part. Of course, what I eat is important. Being vegan for me is important. But what do you do every day? You know, are you taking time for yourself? Are you meditating? Are you stretching? Are you working out? Are you, eating well? Are you sleeping? Like all these many different parts are all tools to becoming the best possible version of yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% right. I
And
love that.
yeah, and so that now is like my focus. I'm like, what are all the small things that we can do every single day to really have us have a lasting future?
Oh, I love that. And
Yeah.
that's the key too, is like I said, this show is really to inspire people. Hello, is it Lauren? I can't really see that while I'm using my
Yeah,
phone.
Lauren.
Hi there. Thank you. um because, I was talking to a client today, and it was like we talked about the relationship with food, and we know that you can have a love-hate relationship with food, and we can analyze that from here till whenever. But the whole point is we use food as a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
and if we don't prepare our foods ahead of time, it's whatever is there, like whatever is in the fridge, right?
Right.
So to develop I guess more meaning and more connection to the foods that you put into your body that are nourishing, to always to be mindful of that makes a huge difference on you're like on your health, right? Because no, I don't want to sound like I'm generalizing, right? But for the most part, when you're an entrepreneur, you probably would end up eating foods out when
Mhm.
you're out, doing meetings, whatever, right? And
Mhm.
before you know it, you're eating fast foods, or you're eating foods that you don't know what the ingredients are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if we can try to encourage people to adapt this aspect, this mindset about connecting with our foods and showing love and connecting with our ancestors, I think that might be like a more like a healing journey, like a healing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I'm getting.
I think it's like, I don't, I hope I'm not coming across as like, oh, it's just always beautiful. It's always so beautiful. And it's not. Like, there's times when I struggle with food. You know what I mean? Like, there's times when when I'm just like, ugh, and I kind of resort to just having something quick as well.
Yeah,
That's just a part of the journey, you know?
absolutely.
But I think it's just, as I say, as my life motto is like, choose the things you want every single day. So if you know you want to be the best at something, you have to choose it every single day.
Exactly.
You can't you
No,
can't do it once in a while. Maybe it'll just happen. I hope that like I'll just land there. No, you kind of got to do this every single day.
I
So
love that advice.
yeah,
Hmm.
because then it's like, so in regards to food, if you're not there yet, if you're like, I don't really know what my relationship is, that's fine. Great place to start. I think it's find the things you love, right? Find the things you love eating. You're like, okay, oh my gosh, I love mac pie and fried chicken and some greens. That's what I love. Okay, cool. How can you make that a little more healthier?
Exactly. It's so true.
Like,
So,
how can
so true.
it's like,
Yeah,
okay, I want mac pie. I'm not gonna use, maybe I'll use brown rice noodles, you know?
exactly. Hmm.
Or maybe I'll use, okay, instead of using dairy, maybe I'll try the vegan cheese,
Exactly. Hmm.
Just find the things you love, start there, and I promise you it will evolve and grow. Like, I
Absolutely.
promise you, right? But
Okay.
you have to choose it. It's
Hmm.
not gonna just happen. You have to make the choice every single day.
Well, hence choosing who.
Choosing you is you. Choosing you is choosing you.
Exactly. Okay, can you give can you give the audience a tip on anything at all? Maybe how to connect more with foods, make it be a loving process as opposed to a chore, whatever, anything, or even something that you've been through.
Yeah. So what could I offer you?
Mhm.
I would say offer you something about food. This is a great way, a great way to enter into this. I say eat your colors, right?
Yes.
I say as much as possible eat colors. So look for the foods that are bright, the oranges, the reds, the yellows, the
Yeah.
purple, the greens. Fill your plate with color.
Yep.
Not only is it beautiful, but it's going to change your mood.
Absolutely.
You're going to be like, whoa, okay, this looks pretty. You're going to want to take the photos. You're going to want to be like, yo, look what I'm cooking. It really will bring you into a mood boosting space. And that is the best place to be, especially if you want to create a healthy relationship with food.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Eat your colors, choose your colors, and definitely does make you feel better because it's good for you because it's vegetables,
Yeah.
and you're not going to feel bloated and all that stuff and
Yeah.
whatever. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You.
So this has been interesting. I what I love really is just your approach to food and your mentality towards it, and I love that it took you on this journey of connecting with your ancestors, and that might be a nice little inspiration for anyone who might be looking at ways in which they can start to look towards more a healthier lifestyle. So I
Yeah.
love that. So Aisha, where can people reach you? I think, can we get the producers to just put your information on the screen? So you're on Instagram. You can let everybody know if they need to reach you.
Yeah. And if you like, for anybody, I offer this for you. If you have any questions or you just want to chat, like, I'm always open and available. If you want to take it one step further and you really are looking for someone to kind of help and do like anything, a one-on-one group cooking classes, one-on-one classes. I also consult. And so if you're looking to you're like, okay, I have a meal plan that I'm working with. What do you think? Or can you help me create a meal plan? I'm there for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really,
Thank,
really appreciate this. And I want to thank you for being my guest on the
thank you so
show.
much for asking me. I love it. This was great. I can talk about food for hours. So
That's okay. No, no, no. You know what? We can talk about food for hours and eat food for hours.
yes,
So,
exactly. That's how it should be done. We need to be eating it as we're talking about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I may have to hit you up on something that, might be a good thing because you said something about offering advice and consult. So definitely. So Jacob says that sounds cool. Thank you. Is it Jacob? Okay. So Aisha, thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
want to Yep, and I want to thank the audience who tuned in tonight. And hopefully this has been inspiration for you. I can't even say the word. Inspiring. How's that?
Inspiring. Yeah.
For you. And with that, we're going to say good night and thank you for watching. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Aisha.